All right, what's up, everybody? We are back here again for week number 17 of Pete's Power Rankings. Yes, for those of you who don't know, I'm going through, I'm watching 99% of all these games. I'm taking notes, keeping tabs, ranking all 32 teams from 1 through 32. What a wild week in the NFL as we are heading into a new year with just 2 weeks remaining in the NFL regular season, and it feels like there's a wide open year this year. A lot of good teams, not really a lot of great teams. I'm not sure if there's really any great team out there. A lot of flaws with everybody. It feels wide open, and it should lead to a wild finish and a very exciting postseason. But let's just get into it here. Remember, though, these are power rankings, not the standings. But let's start with our bottom tier teams 32 through 23. Okay, the Commanders at the bottom here, 32. If you lose to the Jets, then come back and then lose to the Jets again, you're the worst team. LA, you just get a little boost with the coach. Look decent. New coach, got rid of Brandon Staley. Carolina, decent performance. We're getting killed by Green Bay. Then Bryce Young in the second half showed what we thought we were going to see out of the number 1 overall draft pick. He looked good. They eventually do fall short. The Jets, God bless the Jets. That's all I'm going to say about that. New England ruining Denver's playoff hopes. Bailey Zappi, a winning quarterback as the starter for New England. They kind of throw away any chance and one of those top 2 quarterbacks. Probably going to end up with Jaden Daniels, though. Maybe a good fit for them. Arizona, kind of a whatever game. Chicago felt like they controlled most of this game. They had a nice little push towards the end there, but Arizona's just Arizona at this point. Giants, Tommy DeVito got whacked. That's a real bummer. It was fun while it lasted. Tyrod comes in there, scores a big touchdown, makes it interesting against the Eagles. Let's see if the Giants maybe have some juice. The Raiders, a huge win on Christmas in Kansas City. They didn't complete a pass after the first quarter. Who needs to complete a pass when your defense is scoring 2 touchdowns a game the last 2 games? Unbelievable from them. What a wild ride these 3 weeks have been. Tennessee, decent performance, but they blew it in the end against Seattle. Could have used a Seahawks loss to really topsy-turvy the NFC playoffs. Derrick Henry, quarterback 1, another touchdown pass, pretty awesome to see. And Atlanta smacking the Indianapolis Colts. They put Heineke back in. The team looked a little bit better. Why didn't they just ride with Heineke? I don't know why they keep flip-flopping. Arthur Smith trying to save his job. I don't think it's going to be enough. But let's go ahead, get into our middle tier teams here, teams 22 through 16. Okay, Denver pretty much blew all playoff hopes. It feels like losing at home to New England on Christmas Eve. Just awful. Green Bay, you looked good in the first half, but your defense, good. God bless you. Giving up 30 to Carolina. Come on now, guys. Chicago, they keep looking decent. Keep making people question whether they're going to draft a quarterback with that number 1 overall pick they're going to get from Carolina. I think you kind of have to, but you could trade Justin Fields for good value, man. New Orleans beat up most of the game against LA. They do make that late push, cut it to within a score, but it didn't. It's just like Derek Carr watching this team is just painful. The Colts, I haven't been a buyer of the Colts. The numbers held true. Get shellacked by Atlanta. Still in a good spot to get into the playoffs, but it's going to be a little bit harder now. They're still in the division race. They're tied for the division lead, but Jacksonville has the tiebreaker, so it's going to be a little tough for them. Pittsburgh getting a huge bump now. Why hasn't Mason Rudolph been starting? He's looked like the best quarterback on this team. And honestly, he was really kind of decent in 2019. He had one awful start when Myles Garrett bonked him on the head with that helmet. He threw 4 picks in that game. They look decent. Like, this is a viable team. They're right back into the mix in the AFC. Everybody lost except for the Bills, so it's all topsy-turvy down at the bottom tier there. So Pittsburgh coming on strong. Let's see if he can keep it up. Minnesota, totally beat up, totally dead. Nick Mullins still manages to throw for 400 yards against the Lions. Throws 4 picks, ultimately cost him the game. But Justin Jefferson reminds everyone he's top 2, and he ain't 2. What a great performance for him. Feel bad for this team, one of the unluckiest teams in the NFL as far as injuries and the ball bouncing this way. Makes you wonder, Kirk Cousins, maybe this is a team fighting for one of those top seeds. But let's get what everyone came here for, your top 15 teams in the NFL. Okay, at number 15, I got Houston here. Look, there's just a lot of kind of like I said, flawed teams here. No CJ Stroud for the Texans, and they kind of get beat up a lot by the Cleveland Browns. It was an ugly performance for them in the secondary. Amari Cooper goes for 265. There's not much to say. They did return a kick. Dameon Pierce, good to see you again. You don't get the ball carrying it. Might as well let him running back kicks. Nico Collins was back healthy. There was some life there with Case Keenum. This team just really, really needs to get CJ Stroud back. They're just a young team. Their defense isn't super good. But like I said, they're right there in the AFC South, tied with all three teams. So they have a shot. If Stroud misses again this week, the season's over. They're going to play at Indy to end the season. So that's a spot that could be playoff or bust for this team. I do think Houston is trending in the right direction. DeMeco Ryans has done a really good job with this team overall. It's just the injuries have caught up to him. The youth has caught up to him. The lack of depth on this team has really caught up to them. And yeah, 15 for the Texans. Number 14, I got another AFC South team here with the Jaguars. This team is broken, man. They were sitting at 8-3, looking good, an outside chance with a weak schedule to get that number 1 seed in the AFC, and the wheels have fallen off the wagon, and I just don't know what they do. Trevor Lawrence goes down with a shoulder injury. It's like, what is going on here? They're down 30-0 to Tampa Bay, something like that. It's just incredible how bad and how quickly this has fallen off for the Jags. The numbers didn't support a great Jags team all year. I was kind of hesitant on them all year, but I didn't think it would get this ugly. The offense, non-existent. They can't run the ball to ETN. Christian Kirk's still out. It's really struggling to get the passing game going. And Trevor Lawrence just kind of looks like a guy out there. He hasn't been a top 15 quarterback this year. He's been pretty awful. Turns the ball over way too much. And it looks like he's struggling to read defenses. There are a lot of reads out there, a lot of people I listen to saying, if you look at the tape, there's stuff there, and he's not going through progressions correctly. I don't know if he's just totally scarred from the Urban Meyer thing and his development has been slowed up, or maybe this is just kind of a thing. Like I said, I think last week, that was a knock on some of the scouts when they were evaluating Trevor Lawrence. His recall, his ability to remember plays, identify defenses were not up there with the elite quarterbacks we've seen in the NFL. And that could be a concern. He's got all the physical talents. Maybe he's just not up to snuff when it comes to playing the quarterback position in the cerebral sense. The defense is horrid. They don't stop the pass anymore. They don't stop the run. I just don't know what to do with Jacksonville. And this team's probably going to host a playoff game. They're probably going to get a home playoff game, and they're going to get the Browns. God bless them, because I would want no part of that game. Maybe they find a way to fix it in 2 weeks. This team does have talent. I think they have a good coach in Doug Peterson. The man did win a Super Bowl. It's just all hands on deck for the Jags. They got to figure something out. Okay, Cincinnati, Jake Browning's Cinderella run comes crashing down, puts themselves in a tough spot. They're still in this playoff race, but man, a blowout loss to the Steelers. You had no Jamar Chase. T. Higgins essentially did nothing for the first half. This team goes down and out. Browning with a couple of interceptions. He really didn't look great. And kind of leaning to my rookie quarterback, I shouldn't say rookie, my backup quarterback theory, you got to get at least 3-4 games in when everyone has film on a guy. They identify quarterback tendencies, what you like to do, what you don't like to do. What are we going to take away from you? And you kind of see this steep decline. This is where it separates backups and starters. Starting quarterbacks, you can know what they want to do. They're still going to be able to operate effectively. And we just saw a Cincy team that can't do it. Maybe they get into this playoff. They got to play Cleveland the last week of the season. So that's a team that's probably going to be cemented into that last wildcard spot. So that's really going to be a boost for them. I just think we're kind of seeing the limits of this team. They don't run the ball consistently enough. I want to see more Joe Mixon. You got to make things easier for Jake Browning. And Sweet Lou's defense hasn't been great. Has not been great this season. They've been kind of bad all year. They had a decent stretch. But again, you can't let Mason Rudolph and George Pickens go absolutely crazy against you. Bengals here at 13, and I think we kind of know that they just really never had enough this season. Okay, number 12, don't love the way this team looked, but it's just kind of how teams are starting to slot themselves in this ranking. I got the Seahawks here at 12. Ugly win, awful. Only the second team in NFL history now to have back-to-back game-winning drives in the fourth quarter by two different quarterbacks. Drew Lock last week, Geno Smith this week. Bad Titans team, but they got the job done. They couldn't run the ball at all with a beat-up defense. Tennessee defense missing 5 starters. They couldn't run the ball effectively. You need to see the running game. This is where this team has kind of thrived. You get K9 going. You can get Charbonnet into the mix, and then it opens up the passing game. DK Metcalf, seems to make a ridiculous catch now every other week or so. Great touchdown from him. But you got to give a lot of credit to Geno. Led the team down there, went right down the field at the end of the game, got the game-winning touchdown, took care of business, and they now control their own destiny. And the softest schedule remaining in the NFL. They do have Pittsburgh coming to town, who had an extra day, kind of streaky hot, getting a little, a little scary maybe. Pittsburgh playing really well. Maybe there's an upset there. But them and then the Cardinals, two pretty easy games, relatively speaking. They should find themselves into that 7th wild card seed. And, like I said all season, I think this is a good team, well-rounded team, decent defense, good offensive weapons, just kind of limited at the quarterback play. And if Geno's going to be clutch down the stretch, this team could maybe go on the road and win a playoff game. But Seattle here at number 12 for now. Number 11, Baker money maker. Baker Mayfield taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and really grabbing control of this abysmal NFC South. They are playing good and getting hot at the right time. And this is Baker's biggest thing. If he believes in himself, when people don't believe in him, he plays great. And I guess he's still feeling, he heard all the talk. People didn't believe on him. He's playing on a $4 million deal right now, looking to get an extension from Tampa, and everything's working for him. Baker's taking care of the football. He has all the abilities. He was the number 1 overall quarterback. It's just he's healthy. He's not got the pressure in Tampa Bay, has elite weapons. I mean, Mike Evans, just the most underrated wide receiver maybe of all time. And the defense has really turned it around. This was like the worst passing defense in football for a good stretch there. They're not good by any means, but they are better, which is what you need. They have a good run defense. They're better on the back end. And if this offense is going to keep operating like this, we have a bad man at quarterback who just believes in himself when he thinks everybody is doubting him. Tampa Bay is getting hot at the right time. They do play the Saints this week. That'll lock up the division with a win for them. And hey, man, if Baker believes, the team believes, they're probably going to get the Cowboys in the first round of the playoffs. That's a really interesting game I want to see now. Rachaad White, get the running game involved more. I feel like this team has played elite run defenses all season, and they haven't been able to get that on track. But when they do, this is a good, running back. This is a good team that can run the football, make life easier for them. I think Tampa's a dangerous team right now. I could be a fool coming up here down the stretch. They lose to New Orleans. They lose to Atlanta the last week of the season, and it's all over for them. I mean, or they play the Panthers, Falcons. I don't know who they played the last week of the season. Whatever. It could all fall apart, but if not, Tampa Bay hosting a home playoff game, so Bucks here at 11. Number 10, maybe my hottest take of this list. I got the Chiefs at 10, down 7 spots. Look, I'm selling all my Chiefs stock this year. Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league, best quarterback in the world, absolutely. But he is not playing great this year. He's been average, but man, he does not trust his protection, not feeling good about his tackles, and these receivers are abysmal. They're the worst receivers in the NFL. They lead the league in drops. They don't get open. They don't get separation. They make bonehead mistake after bonehead mistake. They compound the issues going on with the team. Travis Kelce looks old. He looks checked out. I think he's going to be retiring here in a second. I think he's kind of done. Maybe go settle down, hang out with Taylor Swift. He had a great career, but he just can't do it. And on top of that, teams focus on him. Hasn't scored a touchdown since week 11. That's concerning. They don't get the running game going. Pacheco seems to always get hurt, man. He's getting hurt. He has good plays, gets hit, he's out. Their tables are breaking when he's on the sideline for injuries. It's just a lot of frustration with this team. Everybody's upset. Brett Veach has got to go get this man some wide receivers next year. Or I could see Mahomes maybe doing something drastic and threatening things, maybe bouncing out of Kansas City if they're going to act like this. Andy Reid maybe retires. Who knows? This feels like a critical moment for the Chiefs. I don't think they're going to get things figured out this year. The defense is still solid. Like I said, they didn't allow a completed pass. They did get gashed a little bit, had a chance to get a stop, and the Raiders churned off a 43-yard run to seal that game. You can't give that up when you know the other team is running. So the defense is good, but kind of inconsistent. The offense is abysmal. They're still going to be a home playoff team. If they can find a way to win that game, then you go on the road and maybe you get some Mahomes magic. It just doesn't feel like this team has it. So Chiefs here at number 10. I am totally out on this team for the rest of the season. They're completely broken. Maybe I'm a fool to finally go against Patrick Mahomes, but it is what it is. Number 9, I got the Rams here at 9. I've been a big believer in the Rams. I was all over the Rams early in the season. Then Kyron Williams goes down. Things kind of fall apart, but now he's back. The offense is humming. Stafford is slinging the ball. Who would have guessed our old beat-up quarterback, Matthew Stafford, is one of the few quarterbacks surviving this year. Puka Shell Nakua, the number 1 wideout for this team. And I think that fits. You have Cooper Kupp as the number 2 role, and Puka's your primary guy, and this is a very successful combination. Both guys can get open. Both guys can catch the football. Both guys can make plays. You solid run game. Now, the defense isn't great. I wouldn't lean on this defense. It's going to be a problem in the postseason against good teams. They will give up scores, but the offense is high-powered. Sean McVay, an incredible coaching job this year, and they're going to be a wild card team, probably going to Detroit in the wild card round. Could you imagine that? Detroit's first home playoff game in 30 years, and here comes old Matt Stafford. McVay, Goff, what a storyline that's going to be. But this is a team I do not want to face in the postseason. They're flaming hot. They have the experience. They've won a Super Bowl. Those are the kind of teams that are dangerous in the playoffs. Experienced teams, hot at the right time, good quarterback play, good offenses, very dangerous Rams team. I'm really, really liking them here at number 9. Number 8, another wild card team I am loving. It's the Cleveland Browns, man. Kevin Stefanski, hell of a job this year. He really kind of got rid of those coaching bugaboos where he would always seem to blow a game late, make a bad decision. And Joe Flacco, the man, Joe Flacco, 300-yard game after 300-yard game. He just comes off the couch. He's lighting it up. And I did see a tweet. Someone's like, Joe Flacco won against Troy Polamalu. These guys he's laughing at. And he was making it look easy for them. And this just really reiterates how awful that Deshaun Watson trade was. They don't need him. They needed just this. They needed this at quarterback. It's perfect for their scheme. And they don't even have Nick Chubb. They can't even really run the ball effectively. The entire offensive line is beat up. But this defense is now buying into the offense. They know the offense can score. They're loving it. They're getting a lot better. They're starting to really, really tee off on people. The pass rush is awesome. Myles Garrett's going to be your defensive player of the year. They have good corners that can shut down receivers. Now, they do give up a big play here and there, and that will be a problem against the better teams they face. But look, this team was down 14, went into Baltimore, beat them in the fourth quarter to steal that game. I know that was with Watson, but could you imagine that storyline? Joe Flacco back into the 1-seed Ravens, and he takes away, snatches their souls. What a story that could be looking up to be. But I think this is a super balanced Cleveland team. They're going to go on the road to Jacksonville, Indy, or Houston in the first round. I'm going to like them in that game. And if Joe Flacco just like he's going to have one interception a game, but he can throw the ball, be a gunslinger downfield, make big plays, create explosive offense for them. This Browns team, man, I know Browns fans are going to start believing in it. They're really, really dangerous, I think. Another team I absolutely do not want to see in the wild card round. All right, at number 7, I got the Cowboys here. Why did Dallas have to do this to me? As soon as I started believing in this team, had them in number 2 2 weeks ago, they go and drop 2 straight road games, and the offense looks horrible in both of them. Essentially nothing for 3.5 quarters. A big play to CeeDee Lamb, another big play down the field was essentially all the offense they could muster. Another game without a 100-yard rusher. I mean, the running game, they can't run the football. What is going on? They just cannot run the football. They're leaning on Dak to do everything, and that's not a good recipe for them. Now, give it to Dak. Dak did go down the field the final drive of the game, go get what should have been the game-winning touchdown with that defense. But again, Cowboys defense folds against a good team, lets the Dolphins go down the field, and the Dolphins are pretty beat up. Mostert gets hurt in this game. He did catch another touchdown. He's a touchdown machine. Waddle goes down. Tyreek's not 100%. They did a good job for most of this game, but they kept giving up field goals. Dolphins could get there, get points, and it added up ultimately in a game-winning kick for them. So Dallas just disappointing again. They don't have a road win against a team with a winning record. In fact, they've looked awful about them. And the biggest concern for me is 40 points a game at home, 20 points per game on the road. That's way too big of a difference there. You can't be this bad. If it was like 40 points at home, or even like 35 points at home and 30 on the road, like, okay, that's normal. I could even give you a little bit more leeway, but such drastic differences. And this is a team that's going to be on the road. They're now out of the 2 seed. They're out of the NFC East lead. Now, if the Giants do lose and they win out, they will be the NFC East champions due to the tiebreakers now, so they don't have to worry about strength of victory anymore. They'll win on conference record or division record, whatever loss the Eagles could have. So the Cowboys could still get a home game, probably not. So if you're a bad road team, you don't have any wins against a team with a winning record on the road, you're only going to be playing teams with winning records on the road. This isn't as bad of a Tampa Bay team as you saw last year. Maybe they go in there, take care of business, and then they get the Eagles, which is who you'd want to play in the second round. You don't really want to play the Niners, I don't think. I know the Niners look a little vulnerable, but they kind of smashed you. And this is just like a whole thing. And the biggest issue is it's Mike McCarthy. Honestly, it's Mike McCarthy. You can't trust him. His coaching decisions are terrible. They can't run the football. It's awful. So Cowboys fans, what's more likely here? You go and win a Super Bowl, which is what you want, or you lose in the first round and you get Mike McCarthy fired? If you ask a Cowboys fan, I don't know. They might take that Mike McCarthy firing because I don't think this team is going to be able to get to a Super Bowl. I don't think they're even going to be able to get to the NFC Championship game. But the NFC ain't that great behind the 49ers, and even they look bad this weekend. So maybe the Cowboys can turn around here at number 7. Okay, number 6, your Detroit Lions. Congratulations, winning the NFC North for the first time in 30 years. 30 years, Jared Goff wasn't even alive, their quarterback, the last time they won this division. So good for them, but it was an ugly game, man. You go to a very undermanned Minnesota team, and it was like pulling teeth. They felt like they were in control early, kind of let Minnesota back and forth. They go down, they go back, they take a big lead, give up a big touchdown, and then Minnesota's got the ball at the 30-yard line with a chance to win this game. Luckily for them, they're playing Nick Mullins. TJ Hawkinson goes down. So I'm really concerned about this Lions defense as a whole. They can't be giving up that many yards against good football teams that aren't going to turn the ball over. That's the biggest problem. They got to lean on their offense. Now, this team is very good indoors offensively, great at home. Like I said, they're going to get a home playoff game. That's big for them. They got to keep riding their rookie running back, Jahmyr Gibbs. He's really emerging as a top-tier running back. Sam Laporta, kind of a quiet day, another guy, all those touchdowns. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is a dog at wide receiver. I don't think a guy gets talked about enough as one of those elite receivers. He's really excellent, one of the best route runners out there. He makes big plays for this team, but I think ultimately the defense is going to be the downfall for them. Great week for the Cowboys to be playing the Lions this week. Lions got to go to Dallas. Lions just won the division for the first time in 30 years. They're going to go celebrate. I think this is a bad spot for the Lions. I think this is a good team overall, but I think they could be in trouble in the first round if they got the Rams coming to town, and it looks like it's going to be like that. So Lions here at number 6, great season for them, but what is the ceiling ultimately for this team? Okay, number 5, I'm keeping the Eagles here at number 5. Good offensive performance. They had about 500 yards of offense. They scored 33 points. But what a horrible pick 6 by Jalen Hurts. That was awful. And this team has not looked good for a month now. They beat up on Tommy DeVito. It looks like they should have blown this game out. The real problem with this team is the offense isn't in sync. It's kind of sloppy. It's ugly. It's not great, which we kind of think the Eagles are going to get this figured out, but are they? The biggest concern I would have with this team is their defense. Their defense is awful. How are you giving up that big touchdown late? Like, what is going on? Their secondary is abysmal. You can throw all over this team. They aren't able to rush the passer, and they're really not doing as good of a job stopping the run like they had earlier in the season. I don't know how you get this figured out. You're switching defensive coordinators. Matt Patricia is not any sort of an upgrade than Sean Desai. This team kind of feels like it's on the precipice. Now, good thing for them is they're going to win the division. They could still technically get the 1 seed. Frisco slips up. They win out. It's in. The schedule is soft, so they're going to get that home playoff game. But this is not the same Eagles team we saw last year that was dominating everybody. You can look at the schedules and say, well, the Eagles played a much better schedule this year. Yeah, but it just doesn't look right. You just watch it on the field, and they're not hot at the wrong time. Things are really bad. Luckily for them, 2 weeks to get this figured out. There's still time to try and work out these kinks, and you're going to have the opportunity to work it out. But I wouldn't feel great if I'm an Eagles fan right now, other than the fact that the NFC feels really kind of wide open besides the 49ers. And if you get into an NFC championship game, if somebody gets upset, if somebody gets hurt, who knows what's going to happen? You don't really want to play in Philly. It's a really tough place to play in the postseason. So keep your eye on the Eagles down the stretch here, because there is reason to be concerned with them here at number 5. Okay, number 4, I got the Bills here at 4. I'm going to keep them here right now. Didn't love what I saw against the Chargers. Now, new coach theory, the Chargers were going to show up and play, but you shouldn't have to be go down and kick a game-winning field goal to beat this awful Chargers team that's missing their best receiver, obviously missing their quarterback. You can't let Easton Stick do that to you, and I think that's the biggest problem with this Bills team. Now, I do love what the offense is doing. They're getting James Cook more involved. They're not so Josh Allen dependent, but they aren't really able to throw the football. Stephon Diggs, 9 straight games without 1,000 yards, 100 yards receiving. Imagine. Gabe Davis, though, did show up. We want to see more balance in the passing attack. Keep this running game going. Take it off of Josh Allen. And when Josh Allen has to go be Superman, let him go be Superman. He still has a massive turnover problem. He just turns the ball over way, way, way too much. And the defense, not great, man. There are a lot of holes on this defense. We knew there were a lot of holes on this defense. The good thing for them is they are still winning football games. They have a belief, and they've kind of find themselves firmly in that AFC wildcard spot. Playing New England this week, I expect them to blow New England out. They lost to them earlier in the season. New England just beat Denver. I think that's a bad spot for the Patriots, good spot for the Bills. And then they got to go to Miami. And if you can go to Miami and beat the Dolphins, you could be your division champs. It's really that simple. You could win the division. You'll have the tiebreaker. Miami's got Baltimore this week. That's an easy game that they could definitely lose. Now, if Miami does win this week, they clinch the division, so who knows? But I think this is a dangerous Bills team, but they're going to have to go on the road. They are very playoff experienced, but Road Warriors, maybe not the best team on the road. Much rather have them in Buffalo. So Bills here at number 4, trending in the right direction, getting hot at the right time, but there are definitely flaws with this team. Okay, up 5 spots. I don't love this spot, but I got the Dolphins here at number 3. Like I said, teams 3 through 10, 11 kind of all feel the same, man. It doesn't feel like there's much. We're just nitpicking. It's all situational football. Who's going to make the plays? Who did you play last week? All that sorts of stuff. It's just big time, kind of crunch time moments. But the Dolphins got a really nice win against the Dallas Cowboys team that I know is bad on the road, but this is still a good football team. They were able to move the ball even though they were undermanned. They didn't get sevens. They settled for field goals, which is what you don't want to see. They are able to get pushed around against physical teams. They did a decent job, though. They need to keep running the football. They need to establish that running game, help things out. Tua under duress, not great, but this defense is looking pretty good. They've been really good since they've gotten Jalen Ramsey back earlier in the year, and they're getting better and better each week. Chubb had a monster game against Dallas. I know Dallas was a little undermanned on the offensive line, but still, if you're able to get after quarterbacks, make life difficult, get stops on defense, they have solid corners that can take out receivers. I think this is a kind of a balanced team. What's their ceiling? I don't know, but like I said, Dolphins go and beat the Ravens this week. They're going to clinch the division. They're going to have the inside track to that 1 seed, and going to Miami where they play really well is not going to be good for a lot of teams in the AFC. I like this Dolphins team. I definitely don't love them. They are certainly flawed overall, but I think that they are kind of turning into kind of learning how to win some of these games, and they're going to have the favorable matchups in the postseason. So Dolphins here at number 3. Okay, number 2, I got the Niners here at 2. Look, bad loss for the Niners here at home against the Ravens. Now, the Ravens are an elite team. Obviously, we know that. But the Niners starting to show their flaws. They're a little banged up. Trent Williams goes out of this game, but the game was already out of hands. But it wasn't a total disaster for San Francisco. Even before the late push, they were outgaining the Ravens, and they were crushing them in yards per play. They were moving the football. Purdy throws 4 interceptions. One of those really not his fault, maybe 2. Couple of bad bounces on that. Good pressure, though. That was the big thing. They weren't able to pick up the blitzes. Now, Purdy did get nicked up the week before, got the stinger, leaves the game with the stinger again. He should be back to play, but maybe he wasn't 100%. He just did not look clean and crisp all night. Felt like they should have leaned on McCaffrey more. He was having a big game on the ground. But this Niners defense, man, they really struggled to deal with Lamar Jackson. They didn't get a lot of pressure on him. And when they did, Lamar would escape out. And we know this. Their secondary's not great. This is the part of the team that you can really exploit. And Baltimore definitely exploited it. These receivers who aren't great receivers, they're okay. They're not world beaters out there. Really abused this secondary. And they just kind of got overwhelmed by a defensive team. The biggest concern I have with the Niners, I do think this is the best overall team as far as talent is concerned, is A, obviously Purdy, are they going to get nicked up? And are these moments a little too big for them? And B, they're just really not built to come from behind. Really struggled. I mean, once they were down 30-4 or 30-12, it just felt like it was over, man. It felt like they had no shot at coming back. So that's a big thing. If you can get up on this Niners team, make them chase you, make Brock Purdy have to be something he really isn't. He's a very top tier kind of good quarterback that's more of a game manager than a game wrecker at the quarterback position, ruining your day. He ain't going to go above and beyond. That's where the flaw with this team is, and we saw it fully on display now. They are still on the inside track to get the bye, be healthy, have the 1 seed, and then deal with the NFC. And if they get another crack at the Ravens, I think it'll be a little bit more successful. Obviously, Lamar dominates teams in the NFC the first time he sees them, but there are definitely holes on this Niners team. They're not as good as we all thought they were. And finally, number 1, your Baltimore Ravens. Look, we've had a love-hate relationship, Baltimore fans. By far your best game of the season. Absolutely dominated the Niners, it felt like, in that second half. But again, a weird first half. You're getting gashed on the ground. You're giving up big pass plays. But I think I figured out what this Ravens team does that's so great. The numbers aren't great. They're really just nothing that jumps out at you. They make critical plays, it feels like, every single week. Like we talked about with the Jags game. Jags dominated the early in that game, but Baltimore makes every single play. They force turnovers. They really did a great job of getting after Purdy, mixing up the blitzes, really confusing that elite offensive line, and taking them out. Now, we got to figure out what's going to happen if a team's able to protect themselves. There was a lot of yards there given up. They got gashed a little bit. They gave up stuff in the secondary passing-wise. So we got to get that figured out. I am worried about this Ravens defense when they get pushed by good offenses. But the Ravens offense, man, this was their best game. Lamar was awesome. Now your MVP favorite. And he just makes plays, man. It's not pretty always. They aren't able to run the ball really as good as a Raven team has. They lost Keontae Mitchell. Justice Hill fills in. He was okay, but it feels like they're really missing that running game that these old Raven teams have had, which would really go well in the postseason. But Lamar just keeps making plays. He's going to be your MVP probably. He's just so hard to tackle. He's so hard to deal with. He escapes. He can get the ball downfield. He can go take off. Now, I do think it is kind of ugly football to watch. Everyone likes watching pretty football. The Ravens are not a pretty watch. They're an ugly, gritty football team, but that's going to really pay dividends in January. They're probably going to be your 1 seed in the AFC. They got to take care of business against Miami this weekend. Another very good team. Little bit of a trap spot. You're coming off a huge win. You're heading back home. Could be a little trap spot for the Ravens, so you got to make sure you take care of business there. Now, the biggest question is, you're going to tell all Ravens fans, is this year different? We've seen an MVP Lamar. We've seen a 1 seed Ravens. We've seen dominant, and they've flattered out. They failed in the postseason, 1 postseason win for Lamar. So it's all going to come down to that. Can he take that step and be that guy in the playoffs? I'm really interested to see here what they're going to do moving forward. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What was my hottest take? Do you agree the Chiefs are falling off? What are we doing with the top 7 teams, 8 teams? It feels like it's splitting hairs on any given Sunday with any of these teams. It feels like they could slip up, get beaten down. Are the Ravens your favorite to win the Super Bowl? Should we be all in on them? What do you think about that? Who's sneaking into the playoffs? If you haven't already, click that like button, subscribe to the channel. We get new sports content every single day. If you want to support the channel more, click that join button, sign up for a channel membership. You get access to early content, exclusive content, badges, emojis, things to use during the live stream throughout the year. Really helps support me, allows me to keep making this great content for you guys every single day. Remember, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.